All right, got a superstar here on the hotline. It's none other than Randy Couture, former UFC light heavyweight champ, former UFC heavyweight champ, former UFC tournament champion. Everyone forgets about that one. Also, Army veteran of 6 years, PFL commentator. The list goes on and on. The owner of Xtreme Couture.
Careful, his head's not going to fit the screen if you keep going.
Exactly, yeah. We'll stop. Randy, great to have you back here with us. It's MMA Junkie Radio, doing some video now because of this COVID-19. And, we were going to talk a few days ago, and it's funny. I keep telling people anything that has to do with forecasting MMA, it's like everything can change in a day or two. And huge news dropped with PFL, the cancellation of the 2020 regular season playoffs and that finale. Man, share your thoughts on that big decision by PFL.
Well, I mean, obviously it's disappointing for the athletes, disappointing for the cast and crew, the folks that are involved. I think the positives are that they didn't want to do it halfway. They wanted to do an abated season. We were supposed to be rolling here in May. It does look like some places and some things are going to start opening up here in May on the current schedule, but we'll see. And so I think they, rather than kind of do it halfway or Mickey Mouse it, trying to put together a partial season, they just decided to, sack up their bats and not play with it this season with all this stuff going on. And we just don't know how this is going to shake out in the next 6 months. It's going to be interesting. So, roll back into 2021 season the right way, the way it should be done. I don't think their ESPN contract is going anywhere. I think that's secure. They have the funds for the season to happen. So, I think it's just a function of wanting to do it and do it right.
Were you consulted in any way? And at the end of the day, I think you already answered it there towards the end. Did you agree with the decision?
I'm, obviously I think like everybody, we all want to get back to work. We all want to get back to doing what we do, what we love to do. So in that way, I'm disappointed, but I also understand the decision. No, I don't have any influence there. I'm certainly just being made aware of the decisions that are being made by the powers that be. So I don't disagree with it. I think kind of piecemealing or doing some events with what's left of the year is kind of a disservice to the brand that we spent so hard the last 2 years to build in some way.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about as well. It's like they have a format: regular season, playoffs, championship. And because we kept thinking of different ways, maybe they could have an abbreviated season. We saw Major League Baseball do that. We saw the NFL do that once, and it culminated with a Super Bowl win and a World Series win. But I think there was just a lot of unknowns. And then another thing, like we were trying to piece everything together. What's ESPN's play in all this? Because when all the sports come back at once, there's a logjam there. Plus, I noticed you guys were in either Jersey or the state of New York or the state of Jersey a lot too. So we started looking at all the little boxes that need to be ticked for the PFL to work. And I guess the odds were just against them,
Yeah, a lot of things stacked up, I think, in leading to that decision. This season sounded like it was going to be spread out a little more. They had some new talent signed, and they were going to try and move around to some different, more interesting places other than, like you said, Jersey, New York, and Vegas were last year. So, but in last season. So, I think all in all, just to maintain the integrity of this brand that they've spent a lot of time, energy, and money to build, they'd rather just call it, not try and do something halfway with what's left of this year, back strong in 2021.
All right, Goze, what do you have for the natural?
Randy, so you're a man who wears many hats, and we just went over the PFL. You have your own gym, Xtreme Couture, even the movies. What kind of things have had to take a backseat here? Are there any unfinished projects? Like I'm pretty sure they were filming Expendables right again. Were you guys able to complete that? What are some of the things that didn't happen?
We weren't filming yet. I got the script a couple months ago. It's very good. I'm excited to get started. I'm hearing that it may kick off and start filming in the fall. So this hasn't infringed on that. I did have a movie that we're producing and I'm acting in that Mindy wrote that we were in this in the final stages actually of pre-production, and it's supposed to start May 1st here in Vegas. So obviously everything, all of that got put on hold, but it's ready to go. So the second things open back up, we can kind of get rolling again and get that up and running right away. So we're excited about that. Obviously, the gym's been closed. Nobody's been in there. We've been doing some improvement projects while the gym's been closed to keep some of those guys busy and help pay some of those guys. And we went ahead and paid our and everybody for the whole month, regardless, even though we're not open. And it's just something we have to do. Their family, we got to take care of them. Many of them live on margins. They don't have a lot of extra money. So they need that money. They need that pay. So we went ahead and did that. But we'll be excited to see the place open again. Hopefully people like the new paint, the new floor stuff that we've been doing since we've been closed in the last 3 or 4 weeks. But I just think in general, we need to get this economy back up and running. We can't afford to stay shut down any longer.
When things come back, our studio's at Mandalay Bay, and we can already tell there's going to be a few things that are a little different. The poker tables, people are going to be separated a little bit more, things like that. Are there any things that you could tell us about the new Xtreme Couture when it opens? Are there going to be any differences than what we're used to before?
Well, I think we're in one of those unique areas where, social distancing and mixed arts just does not work. You got to grab a hold of people. You got to be in close proximity to people. I think that's one of the reasons why gyms were closed as essential in the first place, and certainly an MMA gym. So I don't think there's any adjustments that we can make going forward for this new norm, what seems to be some sort of social distancing, at least for the short term and in the interim, while we figure out this virus, figure out exactly how dangerous it is really going. Not a number crunch out where we really stand, and that's going to be interesting.
I wanted to share something on the topic of the gym. Eric Nixick, who's been the general manager for many years there with us, he was telling us about what you shared. Everybody got paid for April, and this decision, I guess, got made even in March. And it was a big relief for the people that found that out. And Eric, he said, man, all those championships we've won, on the professional levels, on the amateur levels, all the great stories that we have, all the great big names that have been through here. He goes, that's still right up there as one of my proudest moments, that you and him and Ryan huddled up and you discussed, obviously the gym is a business, there's a savings. And I think he even said something about, aside from that, you had a rainy day fund. He goes, this is the rainy day. But he said he didn't feel he couldn't feel any more prouder in his tenure at Xtreme Couture than that day when you guys paid ahead a whole month's worth. Can you talk about that? Like, I'm hoping that you guys are one of those small businesses that can benefit from what the government is doing, because that's right, exactly what they wanted, was for payroll to be met and for people to not have a whole month of stress. Where am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to put food on the table? That was big of you guys to do that.
I just think it was the right thing to do. We rely heavily on our family, on those people that represent us everywhere they go. Both our fighters, our instructors, many of which are fighters. It's the right thing to do. And yeah, we still got to pay rent. How do we charge a membership for a gym that's not open for 30 days? It's a tough situation, but you got to suck it up. You got to take care of your people and position to be back up and running here when things open up here in Vegas, which I'm hoping stays on course for somewhere around May 1st. We'll see.
Obviously, a lot of us have been in isolation, and when that happens, start to have some crazy thoughts. And I had one. I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here, Randy Couture, because it's something that I've been thinking about for a long time that I've been wanting. I have a poster, George and I, of you and Fedor Emelianenko, an Affliction poster. It's signed, and it's kind of a piece of history that, because it's so popular, one of the reasons it's so popular is because it's a fight that never happened. And for what you've explained to us as far as your condition, really it's just something that you have to keep an eye on, but it doesn't keep you from working out or anything like that. You just gotta monitor it a little bit. Let me ask you this. Fedor Emelianenko said he's kind of doing his goodbye tour, and he still wants to have a fight in the U.S., one in Russia. Is there a number, okay? Think of everything that's going on that they could say if they put this number in front, you would make that happen, whether it's in Russia or the U.S. Am I crazy, or could it actually happen? Come on, we all got a price, right?
I have to be honest. I just don't think that makes sense for me at this stage of my life, where I'm at. 6 years ago at 50, maybe. And when he threw his hat back in the ring and my phone started ringing, wanting to know if I wanted that fight or wanted to come out of retirement to take. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me at 50. And it's not about money. I fortunately have taken care of the money I made when I was fighting and the other business endeavors that I have on the side outside of fighting. And so, I don't. It just doesn't make a lot of sense for me to try and grind out a camp to make a fight happen that should have happened when we were both at our peak, instead of now when we're both literally old men.
You don't act like it though. You guys look great.
I feel good, and you're right. I have to stay on top of the polycythemia, the blood. I just let some out about 2 weeks ago. They took 500 centiliters out, what you would give at a blood bank if I could go to a blood bank, just to keep my numbers down in that normal range. So it is what it is.
It's all looking good on that front though.
Yeah, everything's great. I feel great. Energy. I'm lean. I'm down to 215. I feel good, real good.
Randy, the gym has a good vibe going. Joseph Benavidez is probably going to get rebooked to fight for that vacant title. Francis Ngannou, you got to believe that with a win over Jairzinho Rozenstruik, he's probably going to get the winner of Cormier and Miocic. Or in the case of Cormier retires, you got to believe he's up there. How do you compare the current era of how the gym is with the old days? Can you compare? Like, is it something that's still like, is it more of a business now? Whereas before, when you were part of it and also training, it was more like I guess not a frat house, but like a brotherhood or a fraternity, or you know what I mean? Like,
I still think, in my opinion, it's still that family orientation there. Those guys that we sweat and bleed with on a daily basis they're family, and never get any more close than that experience. And I think that's how we try to treat the relationship we try to foster in the gym. That's the atmosphere. That started with me back when we opened the place, and Eric and Ryan and Dennis Davis, those guys have just carried on that same feel, that same mentality. I don't think that's going to change. I think that's an important part of our gym. I think maybe we had more marquee guys in there running out camps and still competing. The list of guys that came through that place and did their camps in that place was ridiculous. But that's not to take anything away from the group and the crew of guys. Kevin Lee, you mentioned Benavidez, Nagano. I mean, there's a crazy group of guys in there now, all young, hungry, up-and-coming guys. So I think it's a great atmosphere. My belief has always been iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. I mean, that's what we live on, is we make each other better. We're accountable to each other. That's what being part of that team is all about. So I think the guys have done a job. We went through that lull after I retired and scattered to the wind to a bunch of other gyms. And I think with Robert Follis and Dennis Davis, they rejuvenated. Misha Tate coming in and winning the title, we started attracting a lot more high-level athletes again. And I think Eric and Ryan have both rallied with that group and done great things with that group of guys.
have you ever, this is silly talk again, but have you ever, just as you're walking through from one area of the gym and you walk by the pro practice on your way to the office, you ever walk by and just look at Ngannou, even if it's for a split second, and just entertain, would I have figured out that puzzle? Because I know you were always treated game plans as puzzles. Lesnar was a massive human being, but you had a game plan and you wanted to figure out that puzzle. So even though he's, I guess, a teammate of yours now, have you ever just walked by and thought, man, how would you attack this beast?
Well, he is exactly that. He is a beast. He's a strong guy, and he's a bunch of new skills to his repertoire that are going to make him hard to deal with. I think he's embraced the grind and keeping that wrestling, or at least the threat of that wrestling, in his game now. And when you got that horsepower, you can make a guy guess. Is he going to shoot? or is he going to crack me? That's a good place to be. So he's going to be tough to deal with for anybody moving forward. And no, I have not. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, he's very impressive. Obviously, with the closure and him with a fight pending, we had to leave it open for him to come in there and get his workouts in and stay sharp with Eric until they finally kind of pulled the plug on that show. But he had to stay sharp because you never knew if Dana White was going to pull that off and find a post that or not. So he was in there every day. I got to watch him a little going in there trying to chase down the mailman and catch the mailman because the place wasn't open. But really good, and he's really added some new things to his tool belt.
For sure. And lastly, as an observer, a lot of your guys fight for the UFC. I know you work with the PFL, but what Dana White's trying to do with this whole Fight Island and stuff, I think I've already seen some comments. You're not really in favor of what he's doing. Do you think he should just concentrate more on Nevada State Athletic Commission? And like you said, maybe on May 1st, let's figure out a way to safely do the sport here rather than, these other ideas, Native American land, an island or whatever.
I mean, he has arguably the premier brand in our sport. And unfortunately, he's stuck with lockdowns and shutdowns like everybody else. And he was just trying to flex his muscle and circumvent what everybody else is subject to, which, I think he above it. He has to be just like the rest of us, just PFL, just like Bellator, just like every other fight, toughen up. Else, nobody's allowed because of the close nature of the contact of our sport and the risks involved. I think that's why Dana was taking the heat, and that's why ultimately ESPN pulled the plug. Because if he had his way, he would have found a way to make that show happen, or the subsequent shows on the island or wherever. So, I don't know. It's hard to say. Hard for me to just his motives were or why he was doing that, but it just seemed like he just wasn't willing to let it go. And that's just speculation. I don't know. But I think ESPN's call was probably the right call. They were going to continue to take heat for going against the restrictions that everybody else was under. So why should they be any different, was my opinion.
It's unfortunate what happened to the PFL, but, I guess we'll just have to rally for 2021 in that case.
Yep.
We can't wait to see you at the gym, see the new renovations that you guys have done or the changes that you guys have done. And of course, hopefully sometime in 2020, we'd love to have you back in the new Mandalay Bay. And, so we don't have to do this video because you're literally probably just a couple of neighborhoods over. But either way, it's great to see you. And thanks again for giving us time here on MMA Junkie Radio, video style.
Thanks, guys. Great to see you guys. Thanks for having me on, as always.
All right. Take care, Randy. See you.
Take care.